Happy Wednesday. So today I have Henry with us who is focused on guiding and empowering all teams, including engineering teams, primarily to deliver fitting solutions to their customers. He makes sure that entire solutions and underlying architecture are aligned towards business goals, making sure that businesses go towards success, short-term and long-term. Let's welcome Henry on 10 Minutes of Hiding Wisdom, where he will tell us about where he's working, what he has learned along the way, and how we can implement all that he has learned in our journey. Hi, Henry. How are you doing?
Hello, Manal. Nice to be here, and thanks for having me. And
Of course.
yeah, it's a lot of questions you had asked, so I don't know whether I can go one after the other. Yeah, I think in my own journey, it's like once I did my masters, I joined Lucent Technologies. It was then I had actually applied to AT&T. I didn't know there was a company called Lucent, but it was breaking up into three parts. So anyway, I got into Lucent and pioneers of AT&T switches, right? And those days, people of those, there were no phone calls were expensive actually at those times, right? Not to mention calls to India. I mean, it was talk of those days. And so we were in the initial software convergence where things were moving into pure software based switches. So part of Bell Labs effort and all that. So I was involved in that. That was a lot of exposure there. The genesis of modern voice over IP and all that. So all the things we do today, including Zoom and a lot of these overseas cables and all that, those were the momentum those days, right? We are talking about what 1990, late 1990s and then into 2000. So then joined. I came here to Silicon Valley to join another startup in the same space, like voice over IP or as we call it, soft switches, right? And then me and my partner, who's now the CEO, right, of Ushur. So we both were there in that original that startup, which actually went through its usual ups and downs, and it's a quite a ride. Went through bankruptcy and then finally went public, all sort of things, right? We always knew there were certain tough problems to solve in the sense in our day-to-day lives when we make phone calls, right? Not to mention all your PG&E or Comcast or all the utility companies, you're getting stuck on a phone call. And we knew the trend was changing. People were on asynchronous messaging, right? Messages were rising and voice calls were diminishing in a way, right? And people lifestyles were changing. They are on the mobile, right? With the mobile, the ubiquitous, people want to be on the move and not get stuck having to take a 1 hour phone call with the your internet service provider or anyone. So that's when we realized the trend and also some part of frustration on us, how the companies should execute, how fast they should move, and all that. We said, well, we do have to do it ourselves. So that's when we quit the job. It was in 2013, something, 14 or something. And we started Usher, where trying to bring that asynchronous, modern lifestyle based engagement to have the businesses meet where the customers are, not having the customer to force them to where the business want them to be, right? So that's the thing. And it's right now we are into this completely customer experience based automation, and that's what we're doing now. What
Okay.
else? To take the plunge, I guess it's the when the moment is there, when the momentum is there, you know that you have to do it. And despite all the risk, knowing the risk, of course, but still you take that chance and move forward. We had to leave our job and do this for a runway of, we are talking about literally 8 months without any necessarily salary or burning your own money, and then slowly getting the help from other investors. Here we are.
Okay. Just a question. How is it like working with your partner?
um it's fantastic in one sense, but it's also it's you're talking about if you ask him, he'll say it's almost like a marriage where it's, you have to lots of ups and downs. And I think it's the technology product, these are not the real problems you can easily solve. It's always the people and how you cope up with them, and how you know about yourself first, right? So that when you react, you kind of there has been very heated moments, and I am driving on the road, climbing the hill, and I'm yelling and shouting back and all that. We have had all those, so it's part
Okay.
of the journey. Yeah.
It makes sense. So currently you are in the customer testing experience phase and everything. Can you elaborate a little more on that regarding what the company specifically does, what your product is, a little more in depth? You did go into a
Yeah,
little detail,
yeah.
but we'd like to hear more about that.
Correct, correct. So the idea is it's multifold, right? Like first, it's obviously automation focused, where for a large scale systems, if you want to interact with, you're talking about a base of millions and all that, right? You have to have a system which caters to all the needs. So we definitely didn't want to go into the connected space like I talked about, right? Like voice, and we can't afford to scale systems like that, nor are modern systems like that. So if you go to, let's say, for example, banking, ATM, we go to the, to withdraw, you go to ATM and get it. You don't necessarily stand in a teller's line unless you have a, need to do so. In a similar fashion, the users want to get what they want from businesses, right? So for that, the engagement has to be seamless, compelling user experience on the end user side. But now, how do you create these systems, right? Traditional creation, we've all been that in software lifecycle, right? You build a software infrastructure, you release it. And again, let's say, obviously, changes are part of these, right? You identify changes. Again, you have to go through the whole cycle and release. Now, your customers have to wait for those releases, whether it's a mobile app, right? Or whether it's a backend infrastructure, they all have to wait for the next version. But now, what if you turn around and say, what if we give the power for the enterprise? Because the modern day is a very robust engagements. Things change fast. I mean, not to mention the pandemic, right? I'm sure many businesses have to scramble in order to reach out the end user and say, hey, by the way, it's not going to be working like this. It's different. They can't do that unless their systems are equipped. So that's when we took the path of having enterprises to build things without any code, so they don't have to depend on us to give a next version, but rather they should be able to create things on the fly, right? Launch it to
Wow,
millions, and then suddenly they have to change. They should be able to change it at their own discretion, right? So that's where the no code building, yeah,
that
it
makes
comes.
sense.
So we are trying to balance both enterprise as well as end user experience. And so the platform was born in its genesis. We coined the term called micro engagements very cognizantly because it's very interesting because, when you start with a problem, your end result, end game is pretty much determined where you start with what ideas you start with. So in our view, like I mentioned earlier, we wanted a system which resonates and works for the lifestyle of the people. So which means, let's say you are at your home, you are engaging, you are getting on your car, driveway, connection is lost, it's fine. But then you are moving away, connection comes back, you are engaging, right? Continuing that engagement with the enterprise. You're trying to solve a problem, right? A simple issue. It may be your house utility, or it may be a financial transaction, whatever, right? And then you're on the expressway, you're not going to text while driving, right? So let's assume, but you're a passenger, you could. So in bits and pieces, you can get the whole engagement done. So we coined the term called micro engagements, which is the driving engine of our entire platform that we built organically. And then, going to the market, we
Okay.
are serving different industries and all that.
Okay, and I'm curious to know because you had traditional jobs, then you started your own company. You've had the perspective of an employee, but then you've had a perspective of a hiring manager as an entrepreneur. So, what is something that you've learned along the way that would be useful for job seekers out there currently who are looking for a job in the market?
Yeah. Um, it's a good question, right? Because the transition from employee to employer, because right now I have the employer mindset, although I have to have that empathy of being, I'm an employee as well, right? Because I still report to somebody else. um, Now, when I look at the job seekers, and when I look at myself many years back, um, I think at one point, while the professional career they are looking at and all that, right, it's very important. But the moment you are with the employer, you're engaging with them, you're pitching, you're selling yourself, your abilities, talents, what you can bring to the company. So, how mission oriented you are, and should you land that job, what will be your impact, and how definitely your professional path, and how it aligns well with the company's mission, and that is more important, right? So, not all employers, but someone's like us, right? Like a startup. For us, the mission is so critical, right? Where we want to go. If it's treated as just another job, then you add up, let's say 200 people you have, and out of that 50 or 60 end up being just another job, then you're losing that impact, the differentiation factor, right? It's the employees that matter. So at least for our business, it becomes more important. So when I look at it, I would like to see somebody who's more mission oriented, and
Okay.
yeah, that's the thing.
I can definitely see, because I think startups, as in like, usually sometimes the salary won't even be that handsome, but you really need to believe in the mission, the work that the company is doing, in order to actually be a part of something that's bigger than you. And a lot of people definitely need to understand why purpose-driven organizations these days are doing so well
Yeah,
compared to other organizations who don't have a strong mission, who don't have a strong purpose, or who don't have a strong value system.
yeah,
So thank you for sharing that, Henry.
absolutely.
The last question for you would be, Henry, is your company hiring? What kind of positions are open? And can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, sure. The right one in top of my mind is obviously we are looking for backend engineers. In fact, I was on another call talking about the same thing. The talent can be diverse, right? Our platform is it can accommodate different languages, so it doesn't matter whether it's a Node.js or Golang or Java. So we're seeking out some individuals. This is a very single position right now in that side backend. But 6 months down the road, we are talking about increasing the team on the AI, ML, machine learning aspects of it. Right, we'll scale up there. Obviously, there are other positions around product management that are there. We are looking for senior product management. We are, of course, at exec level. We are even looking for channel, channel partnership and all that. Now, apart from all that, anything to do with software, front end or back end, if they have that talent, right, that is compelling, we'll make it happen. If it doesn't matter whether the job description is there, position is there. So LinkedIn is always open, right? It's just a matter of, even now I was messaging somebody, it's just a matter of sending a message. And like I said, um, how goal oriented and mission oriented they are. They should know exactly what they're looking for, and then it's all about finding that match, right? What the company is looking for and what the candidate
Okay,
is looking for,
perfect.
and that's what it is. So yeah, they can reach out in LinkedIn anytime, even if the job position is not there, as long as you're a software,
Okay.
working.
Well, you heard it from Henry. If you are goal driven, if you have a interest or passion for software engineering, Henry will make a position for you, just because he understands how important it is to be purpose driven and how important that is for his company to go towards further success. Thank you so much, Henry, for joining us and giving us 10 minutes of your time today. It was an absolute pleasure learning from you and about your company.
A pleasure's mine. Thanks, Mina.